Yo, what's up guys, Miro here, back again with another one of these dungeon walkthrough videos, and this time I'm gonna bring you a Mist 21. And this was done during the week of Volcanic and Spiteful, so yeah, let's get into it. This first pull we're getting into right here, we want to be using either Arcane Torrent or individually purge every single one of those stats. And we're basically going to be popping every single cooldown here, so this pull, it's a pretty big one, and there's going to be a lot of damage going on just because of those guys that we purged. They're going to be cleaving down all the melees, all the range too. And then there's going to be those stacks of the debuff going on the tank that you really want to be dispelling as soon as they get to 2 stacks. They are very nasty debuffs. And then there's also going to be, this one target that's going to get a channel on them, and they're going to get cocooned after a couple seconds of the channel. So a lot of things to look out to be looking out for, a lot of damage going on here, so really good pull to just use everything, add a lot of damage, do a lot of healing, and basically play it as safe as possible. And as we finish this first pull, we're gonna be just skipping this second tab. We're gonna be using a Hunter Trap. He's gonna be getting aggro first, then we're gonna be getting through, and then he's gonna feint it. So once it's done, we are free to go into this next pull right here. Now this pull is quite dangerous. Of course, we got those Spirit Bolts cast going through. Those two can line up on the same target, and that's pretty much a guaranteed death if they both go through. Of course, that should never happen. You got this big AoE damage cast, also gotta be interrupted, and you still got those 2 debuffs that are gonna be applying on the tank, right? So you definitely want to keep your tank topped. Be very mindful of when those are gonna be applied. Dispel as soon as you see 2 stacks of them. Really careful not to dispel only one, because if you do, the tank will have to be sitting on 1 stack, and that is very dangerous. And yeah, it's pretty much a game of getting the CC into the pack. Just try and keep the tank top as much as you can, because if he gets unexpectedly hit by one of those debuffs, he might straight up just get one shot, as you'll see right here in a second. But yeah, most likely this pool is gonna be a bit slow, since we're coming from quite a big pool. So there you see he's one shot right there, almost, although he was like half health. But yeah, most likely it's gonna be a slow pool because we come from a big pack, right? So probably DPS cooldowns are gonna be on cooldown. We could have even used wings right there, but it's not something that I advise, because most likely you're going to be struggling with AoE healing on the next pull right afterwards. So you can take the gamble and go for the wings. Maybe it's going to be safer for the tank, but just make sure that you know you got something else for the AoE pull right afterwards instead. And as I just mentioned, our next pull is the 2 big guys that will do big AoE damage whenever they get to 50%. So what we want to do is focus on one of them and make it go down to 50%. Get the AoE damage going, you heal it up, and then after the AoE damage is gone, you start DPSing down the second one. You want to get the 50% on the 50% mark on each of the guys staggered, so that you don't have them at the same time, right? Right there, I actually used Aura Mastery for the first AoE, and I think I called for Rally on the second one, but this is because we are going to be having a prideful afterwards, right? Second time I did this key on a +21, I think I opted for going with Holy Avenger for one of those casts. There's many things you can do for this damage. It's usually way more manageable on low keys, of course, the damage is lower. Yeah, you should definitely be trying to grid it out a bit. Even though the damage looks scary, it really isn't. You really just want to make sure you have enough stuff for the prideful coming afterwards, right? So try play it safe, but don't over pop cooldowns for that one. And since in this case we actually didn't use wings and didn't use Holy Avenger, we are basically just chilling for this prideful. We have Ashen Hallow, which we probably should have saved just for the boss coming afterwards, right? We want to try and face it as soon as possible. right here, as you see, the prideful is already melting, and I just popped wings when it was like a 30%, and we're still sitting at Holy Avenger, so we kind of didn't really need that many stuff for this guy because apparently it just melted, right? So yeah, that's the kind of thing that sometimes happens. You gotta really know how much damage your group is having at the current time. Maybe it kind of would go a long way to track the cooldowns of your DPSers and see who is popping what. But yeah, as we get into this boss, there's really not much healing you gotta be doing. Basically, there's no healing at all. So long as you're playing low keys, and by low keys I mean you're basically doing your weekly, you might not even notice that this boss actually has quite some damage to heal. But this damage will only happen if you don't manage to kill the tree, you know, for quite a while. So if this is the case and you let this cast that's going through right now, as you see, everybody gets a dot and you gotta heal this dot up, right? So this dot actually deals quite some damage, but it's kind of alright so long as you don't get feared and then you are forced to run through the little pools that spawn whenever the tree is casting something, right? So long as that doesn't happen, you're usually safe enough to not use any cooldowns for that AoE damage, and especially you kind of want to be saving your cooldowns for DPSing the actual boss on this fight, right? Because this fight is really easy. It's all about just doing it as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. And right here I didn't have almost anything for that phase, so I basically didn't use anything. I usually pop wings if I have them, just for damage, Ashen Hallow, even Holy Avenger. But because this fight is really just so safe, we really just wanted to get done with it as soon as possible, right? So as we come into this second intermission, we're probably going to be popping wings and Holy Avenger, I believe, even though the boss is just very low already. But as you see right here, I walked over one of those little pools as I was feared, and that is actually very dangerous because they do a lot of damage once you're on high keys here. So I pop wings a bit early, but that's because we got this AoE damage going through, and they're definitely gonna still be up for damaging the boss once we actually face him. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this pool. Just do as much damage as you can to this guy and finish the fight as soon as possible. And as we first enter the maze, there's a couple things you can actually do to make this faster. So these guys, when you first come into, you know, when you first see them, they are like fighting something, right? And so they won't start at full health. So if you get too close, they will actually, you know, their script for the fight will actually end, and that means they will start regenerating health as soon as they're done killing whatever they're killing. So what you want to do is get your tank as close as possible and then engage the pack as soon as you can. Don't get too close if you're not going to engage, because that means that the script will end and then the guys will start healing up, right? So what you want to do as a healer or as a DPS is just stay back, wait for the tank to get there, and as soon as you're ready to go, just let your tank go first, because that way you won't accidentally start the script or the RP or whatever you want to call it, and therefore you don't have to DPS as much health. Then you can also see where the mist color is actually going. So if you, as soon as you get into this little corridor right here, you can see that she will go to one of the sides. She might go left, right, or forward, right? So if you see her, you can actually, you don't actually need to play the guessing game. You just know for certain that she went that way, so you just gotta follow that way. That's something that you can do to just save a little bit of time right here. For the rest of the pools, I mean, most of the pools on the maze are pretty much the same. You really just want to make sure that the stalkers are getting stunned if possible, because they apply a dot, right? They bite or something like that thing is called, and that's the most nasty thing that happens on this whole maze. That is the debuff that does a lot of damage. You can bop it off, you can bubble it off of course, but you can stun it as soon as it's happening, right? So it won't actually go through. Then there's also the dispels that you gotta get done for the moth mobs. you can stun the guys that actually do this big AoE around, right? And they keep on stomping, so if you get to melee, you will get hit. You can stun them once they start their cast, and then they won't do it again. But for the rest of the what you call the maze, really nothing special going on. You just want to get through it as soon as possible. I like to use wings every new room whenever I see that the next room won't have a prideful on it, right? So if I get to a room and I see, okay, the next room doesn't have a prideful, then that's when I know that I am free to use wings just for damage. In the case of Ashen Hallow, I'm kind of reluctant, of course, because chances are you're always going to be using it on prideful's in this dungeon. It usually lines up pretty well in that regard. But you can still find a spot here and there when to use it for damage. For now, I only used it on the first pull, right, and then I used it on the prideful before the boss. Now I'm just waiting for this prideful to be using it again. And as well as getting into this prideful, everything is kind of a mess. We got the Spiteful coming for me. I decided to bubble right there. We still got some trash living. We got those prideful lines going through. Kinda hard to see where they are, especially because of Ashen Hallow, right? Everything's red. But yeah, we just pop Ashen Hallow, we just finish off everything, and we kinda use wings a bit late, like always. And yeah, pretty standard prideful, nothing too crazy about it. At this point, 21 pridefuls are not, I mean, they're not easy to heal, but they're not that hard anymore. I'm kinda getting to the point where maybe healing them with only wings is doable, wings and deep or something like that. But still, you know, they're still doing quite some damage, right? But it really depends on how much damage we have at our disposal on these situations. And yeah, we just keep on going with the maze. We got another easy pack. We just want to get those dispels. And again, as I said, these stuns, right? You saw there, he finishes his cast, and then after that, it's like a channel. You stun it, and then he won't recast it. If you stun before the channel is finished, or rather before he finishes, you know, the first cast, then he will recast immediately. So you really want to wait until he finishes the cast to land the hodge, to use the blind, whatever CC you want to be using. But yeah, for the rest of the maze, that's pretty much what's going to be going on. Nothing more to point out here, I think. Of course, we are using the maze weak aura. It's our tank that's going from pillar to pillar, figuring out where's the way to go, but that's about it. If you want to see and figure out how to actually use that weak aura, there's probably a lot of guys where to watch for it, but you really just go to the pillar, figure out what it says on the pillar, and then you click it on the weak aura, and the weak aura should decide, after you have you know, marked some of the options, it should decide which one is the one that's supposed to be the correct one, right? So that's basically about as difficult as it gets to use this weak aura. Sometimes it's not correct. I'm not sure how to solve this, to be honest, but yeah, you just gotta try it a couple times sometimes. Now as we get into this prideful, I think this is right before the boss. Once again, kinda messy. We still got ads alive, of course. We got the Spitefuls coming for us. But again, we have that Ashen Hallow. I've been saving it for quite a while at this point, I think. Yeah, I used it on the last prideful, right? So it kinda lines up perfectly. Every room takes about 2 minutes, so what I said before kind of stands, right? So if you go into a room and there's not gonna be a prideful in the next one, then you can use wings, and wings are gonna be back for the prideful. Same goes for the Ashen Hallow, right? You use Ashen Hallow in a room, it's gonna be back up for, you know, if you use it for the prideful instead, it will be back up for the next prideful. And as we get into this boss, this is actually really easy. I mean, this boss doesn't really do anything for us healers. For the most part, I only DPS on this fight, unless we are on like the intermission phases, of course. When you get to these high key levels, there starts being some damage, so you kind of want to rotate some cities. Maybe use Devo here, maybe use wings there. For the most part though, I just pop them on city and just add as much damage as possible. Again, one of these fights where you just want to get through it as quickly as possible. What we do here is we try and have our tank see which is the correct one, so I don't really usually have to think about it, but I can see how it might be a struggle if you cannot figure it out quickly. But yeah, it's just about dodging these lines. We use Savage Roar to disorient the fox. Now since they fixed it, now the fox, once disoriented, it will recast the fixate, right? So it's a little bit harder in that regard. You can still just trap the fox and you forget about it. But if that's not the case, you can fear it like that with Mortal Coil. You can fear it with whatever the fear is from warriors. You can still Savage Roar it. You can do whatever you want to it. But just be mindful that it will just recast the fixate and it will still try and go for somebody. So always be ready to just land a hotch onto it. And yeah, for the most part, this fight just keeps on going on and on. And you just want to keep on doing damage because it's a pretty easy one, to be honest. And what we do here is, depending on the route we get on the maze, we might actually need to kill this pack right here. Sometimes we don't, I feel like. I think that's the case, but anyhow, we go into this pack. Pretty easy one, not that much to say about it. We just don't want to pop anything here, right? Because we are gonna be going to a big pool right after, and then after that big pool we will have prideful. So just try and not use anything here because you shouldn't really need it. There's not anything that's too dangerous if you only pull this string. And on this pool right here, what we like to do usually is just get this, I think it is 3 packs, I'm not sure if it's 3 or 2, but anyhow, it's a very big pool, there's a lot of mobs, there's gonna be these big swirls on the ground, right? If you stand on them, you're pretty much dead, or you will get knocked out and then die, so really careful with those. There is some spots on these platforms where they are really hard to see. They might be like sneaking behind the, you know, under the grass in some points. So be wary of those. Those really are the only thing that can kill you here. Now, despite you might get a lot of debuffs and you might need to spot heal quite a lot here, shouldn't need any cooldowns. Really try to grid through this pack because you will get a prideful right after if you have to do the same route. So you really don't want to be wasting any cooldowns here. If this is not the case and you are not getting a prideful, you could definitely use maybe Ashen Hallow, maybe Wings. A very good pool to be adding some extra damage. Of course, be very careful. There's gonna be some reavers running around, right? So if you accidentally pull those somehow, you probably are in big trouble, so be very mindful of that. And once again, for this prideful, I saved all my cooldowns, so I have Ashen Hallow. Again, it's basically coming off of cooldown as I'm getting into the prideful, so every prideful is about 4 minutes apart in this dungeon. I got those wings ready, I got that Holy Avenger ready. I could probably have even used wings on the first pull we did here on those 3 little mobs, but just in case, play it safe. You should be comfortable in the timer. If that's not the case, I mean, you probably want to risk it, I'm not sure, but really easy prideful for us here, and we are gonna be invising past this whole area right here, and we're gonna be going straight to the boss with the prideful buff to kill it as soon as possible. And yeah, as we get into the boss, again, nothing too crazy about this one. Of course, be dodging those swirlies, that's really the only thing that can kill people here. We want to be interrupting the cast he does at 70, at 40%. I've seen some groups that don't interrupt it. I'm not sure why that is. I guess they don't want to have the ads spawning, but I don't think those are dangerous at all. I think the AoE damage can be quite more dangerous if somebody just walks over one of those puddles for whatever reason and they are not topped. They might actually get one shot sometimes, right? So we just want to be interrupting that as soon as possible. At least we do so. For the ads though, either you bob somebody, or you can bubble yourself, or you can just take them to the face. If you're gonna be tanking them on melee, for just for the sake of cleaving them, you should probably just try and Shield of the Righteous at least a couple times, because the buff from Shield of the Righteous actually gives more armor than Iron 4, if you didn't know that. So you're definitely gonna be very tanky during the time that you got the buff up, so you're gonna have no issue tanking those guys yourself. But yeah, really easy boss so long as you dodge stuff. You can use wings here for damage. You can probably you probably want to be saving Holy Avenger if you for whatever reason manage to have it. Same goes for Ashen Hallow, because right after the boss is done, we're gonna be finishing up the key with 2 big pulls with a lot of trash. So we want to have those coming back up just for the safety of those other pulls. And as I just mentioned, after the boss is dead, we just trying to finish up the key as soon as possible. We still got a lot of time here, we're chilling, but we still go decide and do this big pull right here. Usually pretty safe. Again, just like the one that we did before with a lot of the worms, there's big swirlies on the ground, and so long as you dodge those and you heal up the debuff guy, the debuff that you know does AoE damage around you, basically everything else is fine. You just want to make sure you don't get one shot by the big swirlies, right? So here I use Ashen Hallow for the sake of damage mainly, and then I pop wings just to empower that Ashen Hallow. But we don't really need all those cooldowns because this pool is actually pretty safe. And we still need some cooldowns because the pool we're gonna be doing after, it's gonna have some reavers in it, so it's gonna be kinda spicy still. And And as we get into this final pool, you want to just make sure you got those rivers as well as these big worms. Pretty much like the previous times we pulled worms, we got the big swirlies, dots those, and then you just don't die. That's basically it about these packs. Get the dots healed up, not much to say about those. And then of course the rivers are going to be applying those poison debuffs, right? So make sure you don't get somebody with 2 stacks. You're not going to be able to keep up with all the applications of the dots, of course. You would need 2 dispels for that. So the only really bad scenario here is somebody getting a double stack. So just try and be quick on those dispels so that doesn't happen. And with this we pretty much end the key, and yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed that, please subscribe. If you want to watch live on Twitch, the link will be in the description. And yep, that's about it for this one. The next video I'll be posting will be Spires of Ascension plus 20. That's the last video that I got recorded from this week from Volcanic Spiteful. And yeah, after that we'll have to wait so I get more footage. But yeah, thank you very much for watching again, and see ya next time.